In the Heart of the Word, reflections by Father Joseph Mary, SCTJM, on the daily readings from the Holy Mass, Saturday of the 28th week of Ordinary Time, Special Edition, the Triduum of St. John Paul II, Day 2, an Ark for these difficult times.
God bless you, dear family. Today in the Heart of the Word, we continue our Triduum for the memorial of St. John Paul II. In the Gospel, Luke chapter 12, Jesus speaks to us of the signs of the times. If in the Holy Land, he says, you see clouds in the west, or feel a wind from the south, you know that a heavy rain is coming, or a scorching heat is on its way. Jesus then says, you hypocrites, why do you not know how to interpret the present time? We are in a flood, my brothers and sisters, what some have described as a tsunami of secularism, a world filled with hostile ideologies promulgated by a limited few, but a culture immersed in an implicit atheism, a world that lives as if God does not exist. We have the scorching wind of what St. John Paul II called prophetically the culture of death, where the solution for the child conceived with a physical or mental disability, or the elderly who are no longer productive, is death. Euthanasia, which in Greek means a good death, ironically. Between the flood of atheistic materialism, Marxism, and ideological genderism, which seeks to reduce the human person to an isolated self whose body is changeable and superficial, we have received an ark for these difficult times and an oasis of truth in the desert, the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the Magisterium of St. John Paul II. If there was a moment that defined the papacy of John Paul, perhaps it would be the attempted assassination against his life on May 13, 1981, the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. Blood and water poured out from the heart of John Paul as a living image of the pierced heart of Christ, and his life was protected by Our Lady. As he said, one hand pulled the trigger, but another hand guided the bullet. Let us remember that Our Lady said in Fatima, "My heart will be your refuge in the sure path that will lead you to God. And in the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph." 3 years later, John Paul II would consecrate the world to the Immaculate Heart. And 5 years following the consecration, the Berlin Wall collapsed peacefully. 2 years following that, the Soviet Union collapsed entirely, and 3 years later, in 1995, he gave us a testament and path for a culture of life, which would be the antidote to all the attacks against human life. My brothers and sisters, if you have not done so, I beg you with all my heart to read prayerfully and deliberately Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life, the great encyclical that John Paul has given the Church so that we might be a people of life and for life to build a new culture. This document is the most extensive teaching in the history of the Magisterium on the causes of the ideologies of our own day and of the power of the love of Christ and Our Lady to heal us and to inspire a new culture worthy of the human person, a culture that is a triumph of the merciful love of Christ. As John Paul II preached in Washington, D.C., October 7, 1979, in his first apostolic visit to the United States, the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, nothing surpasses the greatness or dignity of a human person. Human life is not just an idea or an abstraction. Human life is the concrete reality of a being that lives, that acts, that grows and develops. Human life is the concrete reality of a being that is capable of love and of service to humanity. John Paul continues, human life is a precious gift because it is the gift of God whose love is infinite, and when God gives life, He gives it forever. Hallelujah, my brothers and sisters. Let us conclude with these words of Mother Adela. Thank you, John Paul, because your life was the most eloquent testimony of your words which are a luminous legacy to light the path of the Church in the third millennium. Thank you for teaching me, for teaching us, to make of our lives a sincere gift, to live love with responsibility so that others may have life. All for the heart of Jesus, through the heart of Mary.